where I want Midland to grow is I want this. I won't be shy about it. I want Midland to be, the best place in the entire state to start your family, start your business, and live your life.
Welcome back to the Talk Midland podcast. My name is Logan Richetti with Modern Realty. Today I have the House of Reps from the 95th District, Bill G. Scheutte.
Hey, Logan. Thanks for having me on. Long-time listener for as long as this podcast has been going. Appreciate the opportunity to be on here.
Well, I saw you at the Talk Midland breakfast give a dynamite speech, or not a Talk Midland, it was the Republican breakfast.
Yeah, I can't wait till we have a Talk Midland breakfast. That'll be great. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, you went right behind your dad. So your dad went right before you, and it was like a lineup of local Midland politicians having their chances to give speeches, and they were mini speeches in front of the crowd. But I thought you did a heck of a job, and I think it's tough to follow up your dad, who has a pretty storied career as the former Attorney General, right?
Yeah, he was Attorney General. He was a member of Congress. He was a judge on the Court of Appeals, state senator, but he hasn't been to the State House yet. So that's what I tell him. I said, when Dad was first elected to Congress, 1984, he was the youngest congressman in America. And I tell him, you know what, Dad, you're 70 years old and you still haven't made it to the State House. So that's the joke I tell him. So,
well, let's be real, because just a couple of years ago, obviously you have a really storied background and your resume is awesome. I want to get really into it.
Thanks.
But just most recently, over the last couple of years, you ran for the seat, and we got to watch you locally door knock and actually campaign with social media, with grassroots approaches to this campaign style, which in a lot of ways is not as common as it used to be.
Yeah. So I think that's the attitude I wanted to take in running for the State House is, run the race to, leave everything on the field. That's played sports over at Dow High, played football, baseball, basketball, was never the best athlete on the field, but I was always the one who would work their butt off. And I wanted to take the same approach to running for the State House. Is when the dust settled in November, I wanted to lay exhausted on the field of battle, knowing I'd laid everything out on the field. And I think that's also what Midland deserves, and what this community deserves is someone who will go to the effort to talk with them, go to the effort to meet at their door. So we knocked on more than 12,000 doors in the last campaign. And then also, I think the virtue of having a state rep who is, I'm 28, I turn 29 later this month, who's a little bit on the younger side, is taking advantage of some of the new communication mediums like social media to try and connect with voters. Because you got to meet voters where they're at. You got to meet people where they're at. And you can look around our political scene these days, and I think we need folks who are willing to reach out and communicate during and using different means, whether that's knocking on their door the old school way, or posting doing Facebook Live videos and allowing for opportunity for comment that way. So that's the approach I've tried to take, running for the office and then serving in the office.
Well, I can imagine, at any age, it would be a little bit overwhelming to walk into a state house after winning an election locally. But you're on the younger end of the range by a mile.
Yeah.
What's it like walking in there and having colleagues that are sometimes the age of your dad or much, much older and have more experience, frankly, in politics because they've just been in it longer? What's that like? Yeah,
so I am, I'm the youngest Republican in the State House. There's and the youngest in my caucus room, and I think just with anything, you always have to go first, trying to listen, trying to learn, and it can never be about you. It has to be about something that's bigger than you, about public service. And so that's the attitude I've always tried to take. But I also think you can look around our political scene right now, and this is the same question that I would get asked when I was knocking on doors, and someone would say, I think you look a little bit young to be our state representative. And I'd say, well, I think we need more young people involved in public service. You look across our U.S. political landscape, but also I think I bring great experience to the position as well. I was an intelligence officer with the Department of Defense. I served in our nation's capital in Mexico, the Middle East. I was briefing generals on which terrorists were most dangerous to U.S. forces in our homeland. If I did that, I think I can, debate an issue on the floor of the House in Lansing.
Well, let's talk about some of your past experience, because it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
You've done some very interesting things in your path of service.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about your intel experience?
Yeah. So, born and raised in Midland, K through 12, Midland Public Schools. We talked about, played, was not as good at baseball as you, but played at Dow High, and then went out to school in Washington, D.C., at Georgetown. And while I was out there, I always knew that public service was something that was important to me. We talked about my dad, but my grandfather was a World War II POW fighter pilot. And so public service, serving my country, always something I cared about, wanted to do so in a way that matched my talents and my abilities. And I was approached by a recruiter for the intelligence community while I was out there, encouraged me to look towards going into the program, said, a graduate degree in international affairs would be very helpful. So Georgetown had an accelerated master's program, and after learning more about the career path, I said, this is what I want to do. This is a way I can serve my country, wake up every day thinking I'm doing something to keep my friends and family safe. So got into the program. That program set me up to be a very competitive applicant, and you get the position, then you have to wait about a year and a half for your background check to go through. So that's why it was a good time to be wrapping up grad school. And after they finish, looking through all your dirty laundry and more, you get your security clearance, and was able to work as an intelligence officer based in DC. Was working on counter drug issues, specifically looking at Latin America. I speak Spanish, so I had the opportunity to live in Mexico for a period of about 6 months, and then went over for a stretch assignment. I volunteered for a deployment with the Defense Intelligence Agency to the Middle East, where I was supporting our Special Forces Task Force going after ISIS.
Wow. So you actually went over there and you were stationed there for a while?
Yeah. So I was there, Camp Arifjan, in 2020. So it was an interesting time to be over there in the middle of COVID. Everything was shut down. Didn't leave the military base. I was there for 180 odd days or so, but it was a good experience. And again, my focus for the first couple of years I was at DoD was counter drug, and was, you have synthetic opioids like fentanyl. It's 50 times stronger than heroin. You have to, when our border patrol or counter drug agents interdict fentanyl, you have to wear gloves because you have a cut on your hand. It can get into your bloodstream, and with the powder-based shipments, and those very impactful work trying to go after the drug cartels, try to limit these dangerous drugs that are coming in here into Midland County into the state of Michigan. But then when there was these deployments in the Middle East are difficult to fill a lot of times, and I said, I'm at the point in my life where I could volunteer for that type of assignment, and it was a rewarding opportunity. It was very challenging, but it was a good opportunity to serve. So,
well, both of those opportunities to serve are impressive. Mm-hmm. Obviously, working anti-drug intelligence is a little bit different than anti-terrorism.
Yeah. But I tell people, and this is between drug dealers and terrorists, it makes politics in Lansing seem a little bit easier, between, because those are some of the nastiest folks you'll meet are the cartels and the terrorists. So makes those politicians who people love not seem so bad.
Well, just sitting here as a guy who never served in the military, thinking about the risk and the decision to go. Put yourself halfway across the world in a danger zone to serve in an intelligence role. You're still at risk. You're still in a danger zone. You're probably at a different kind of risk because you're an intel, and they'd love to get a hold of you guys like that because holy cow. But also you're doing really important things. Yeah, you're supporting special forces who are doing strikes and chasing down targets and trying to keep people safe. And the military and that service branch has so many components to it. So many people, men and women, working together to achieve these objectives that it's just, to me, it's incredible. Yeah. And I'm very grateful to men and women like you guys who have taken those steps and done that service. So thank you.
Yeah, well, and thank you. And to be clear, I was a civilian in a civilian role, in a civilian capacity.
You're still there though.
Yeah, and
you're there.
You are there, and it's a stressful position to be in. You're providing support to these kinetic operations, and you don't want. Again, and I have so much respect for our women and men in the armed services who are going into kinetic operations, but you never want to be the person who gave them bad intel on where the hideout is or where the operation is. That's very stressful. And so obviously, nowhere near like going into the live operation itself, but we had a great operation with Operation Inherent Resolve, and I think the work that was done by that operation is part of the reason that ISIS is no longer as consistent of a threat as it was before 2020.
Yeah, I mean, I just watched the Green Zone the other day, and I'm thinking about intel now as you're discussing that, and I can't imagine the burden of responsibility that guys like you had trying to work up good targets and trying to find good intel so we're not sending our guys or gals into a dangerous mission for no reason. So, man, that's just I know we're getting sidetracked here, but that's impressive. It's really impressive.
Thank you. It was a good opportunity. And like I said, to be able to wake up every day and say, in my small part, I'm doing what I can do in a way that I think matches my talents and abilities to keep our country safe is rewarding. And I look at, politics and public service right now is what can I do to make my community a better place? And that's something that has always been tried to be my guiding light, are those ideas of community, those ideas of public service. And I think it's your way of giving back. You live in a great community like Midland. We're coming up on the 4th of July, the greatest country on earth. There's a duty and a burden of citizenship of paying it back to your community.
All right, so you came back from that period of time in your life. What did you do? What did you do next?
I worked for Dow. I worked on their public policy team. So looking at, you did intel for the U.S. government, determining, what are the greatest threats, whether that's actors, whether that's drugs, terrorists, what have you, to our country. Then you're working for a global Fortune 100 company like Dow. Okay, what are some of the geopolitical threats their operations face? And so that was a great opportunity working on their public policy team. There can be, when you're a Fortune 100 company, there's threats from, floods, planes, trains, automobiles, legislation that's bad, all those types of things. So that was a great opportunity. And, growing up in Midland, you can't drive down a street without seeing the impact of a company like Dow, right? Whether that's something like the Center for the Arts, the Dow Diamond, the Dow Gardens, all those things, they make a huge impact in the community. So it was, but it can also, when you've grown up here, you can sometimes just gloss over that and not see it. So it was a good opportunity to work for the company and see its global reach outside of just Midland.
And public policy has a component of politics, right?
Oh yeah,
because you have to lobby on behalf of the company and on behalf of the city, and that's an ugly word sometimes, but really what lobbying it really is trying to represent your constituents and try to put their best interests first, right?
Absolutely, and in the position and role I was not a lobbyist, but I think every organization and you view this a lot in Lansing is. Every organization has, and every issue has a stake and has an impact, right? You can't. We just passed $83 billion budget in Lansing, and you kind of wonder, and you sort of wish that your mom and pop small business had the ability to go and lobby about some of the impacts of everything from increasing fees and regulations have on their business, and when you're spending this type of money, the types of impact it has on them. So it's important, and that's why I say I think the most impactful things to me when I'm evaluating a legislation are the people who come to my office hours and talk and about a different issue, or somebody who calls my office or sends an email, and we get hundreds of and thousands really of different bits of correspondence, and we answer every single one and reply to every single one because it's helpful and it's impactful, and it helps me really understand where my district is and represent the 95th district.
What an interesting concept too, because you have your own, as an individual, you have your own political values and your own morals and your own approach to things, just as everybody does. And then, of course, you as a representative of a greater group of people, you have to have a pulse of what their wishes and their desires are. And then you have to reconcile and balance all that. And of course, even in your best scenario, a 70-30 percent, you got 30% of your constituents don't agree with that philosophy or that vote or that decision, which has got to be tough.
It is hard. And I think what I always try to do and what I'm always trying to communicate, whether it's on social media, knocking on somebody's door, at the grocery store, at family fare, when somebody asks you, is you want to listen, you want to hear from them, but then also, explain your position. And I think what we miss a lot in our politics today is an ability to just assume good intent and to disagree without being disagreeable. And that's something I've tried to do. Is someone can say, "Hey, Bill, why did you take this vote?" And every vote that I take, I want to have 3 reasons for why I did what I did. And so when anyone asks me, why did you vote against the budget? I can say, well, it didn't increase the per pupil allotment for our schools. There was $400 million of pork and special projects, and it cut funding for school safety programs. Every time, 3 different reasons, but I assume good intent. I'm not trying to say I'm better than you because I didn't support the budget. But again, you're in that position to make decisions. So you have to at the end of the day make a judgment call.
Well, help us understand a little bit about how the state government is structured.
Yeah.
Obviously, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
You have a House of Representatives and you have a state Senate,
Yes,
and then
sir.
you have the governor,
Yep.
which is similar to the federal government structure. And we have 50 senators.
We have 38 senators. Yeah.
Okay, so that's by district, and there's 2 senators per district?
Yep. So there's it's a little bit different. So U.S. in the U.S. Senate we have 50 senators, and we have 50 states. Each state gets 2 senators. In the Michigan Senate we have 38 state senators, and then you have 110 state House members. And some states, each Senate district has 2 state reps or something like that. Michigan does not do it that way. Why? You would have to, ask. We wrote our Constitution last in the 1960s, and they decided not to have our districts nested within them. But it is an interesting opportunity. So each state House district is around 90,000 people.
Okay.
And I think the good opportunity about that is that it's big enough. You're one voice of 110. That's an ability to work on impactful legislation that controls our entire state. But it's small enough that you can, by door knocking and doing the work, you can get to know your district really well. It can still be a grassroots. You're not awash and having such a big constituency where you can't really understand people.
So you're the 95th district out of 110?
Yes.
And it has roughly 90,000 people?
Roughly 90,000, yeah.
Who is made up of the 95th district?
So it's all of Midland County. Okay. So all of Midland County, and then 3 townships in Gladwin County. So Beaverton, Billings, and Tobacco Townships in Gladwin. Oh. City of Beaverton as well. And then the city of Midland, actually, there's 2 precincts that are in, it's in the city of Midland, but it's in Bay County. So you actually have a little bit of Bay County. I think there were 30 votes or something that came out of that portion last year. But actually, when we're when you go to Valley Plaza, you're actually in Bay County. A lot of people don't realize that, which is funny. So you're in the city of Midland, but you're in Bay County. So,
that's right. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I always find it kind of funny when you have a Midland, a Midland County event in technically Bay County, but they always play nice. So that's good. Yeah.
All right. So you have 110 districts.
Yep.
Each district has 1 House rep.
Yep.
And then the Senate districts must be consolidated combinations of different geographic locations?
Yeah. So, for example, right now we're in the 35th state Senate district, and that's the city of Midland, Bay City, Saginaw, and then the townships that connect them. So Midland Township, Larkin Township, Tittabawassee Township, what have you. And then, but the other part of, and the state senator for that district, Kristen McDonald-Rivet, then for the other half of Midland County is in Roger Houck's state Senate district. And his district is, stretches, north and more north and western, and gets a little bit of the northern parts of Bay County as well. So that is the interesting part of how we divvy up and draw up our state legislature maps is in one state house district. Midland County has one state house member, but it has two state senators who represent it.
That's interesting.
Two congressmen who represent it. You have Kildee and you have Molinar. It's definitely interesting.
Are the state senators Republicans or Democrats? Those guys.
Yeah.
Those
so one's a Republican, one's a Democrat.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
it is. It kind of speaks to sort of the times that we're in right now too. Is Michigan politically is going to be one of the top states in the country for the road to the White House, U.S. Senate, U.S. Congress, the State House. All are going to be very competitive. It's an exciting time to live in Michigan politically. It also means our TVs and our phones and radios are going to be awash in ads between now and November.
Yeah, it's only going to get worse and worse.
Only going to get worse. Only going to get worse. Or if you're in the the media market consulting company, it's haymaking season.
Yeah, so, for sure. Well, it'll be interesting to see how the macroeconomic political landscape affects Michigan. I know that Michigan, especially after this recent debate, is becoming more at play, or at least I don't know if it's a toss up or which way it's leaning, but I know that it has an impact on the overall election, as does Wisconsin, Minnesota, and this whole area. Ohio obviously is a big deal.
Yeah.
Do you follow national politics closely in terms of campaigning?
Yeah. So I think, so much of our politics is driven by what's going on nationally. I think that's also part of the virtue of the state house is you're able to talk about issues that resonate across the state, across the country. But then you have a district that's small enough where, also people can call your office. They have an issue with a permit with, the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. They, call your office, but then, you have an issue about, the fentanyl crisis in Lee, how it's impacting, families in Lee Township. You also call, my office, and that's an interesting dynamic. But Michigan is again, it's a swing state, and the state house is up for election this year. I'm the chairman of the House Republican Campaign Committee. So in addition to running for my own reelection, I'm coordinating our caucus campaign efforts to hopefully, flip back the chamber for the Republicans this fall in November. So that's and you look across the country, Michigan's state house, state legislature. It doesn't matter if you ask Republicans, Democrats, national pundits, they all say that Michigan's is the chamber that's most up for grabs in the entire country. So there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on our state, that's for sure.
Very interesting. I remember watching the Obama years and the Trump and then Biden and really paying attention to those state house races and how they changed from red to blue and blue to red and back. Yeah. And I find that the national landscape has an impact on the local state elections too, which is wild. And if so, you have to raise money, you have to raise campaign funds to win re-election. Yours is a 2-year term, right? Yeah,
it's a 2-year term. The state Senate's 4 years, state House is 2 years, and so it's you get in there. So I was talking to one of my colleagues. I was like, we had 50 of those 110 state house seats in our legislature. 56 of those were freshmen, so 56 were new members.
Wow.
Right? And I was talking to one of my colleagues and I feel like I just got here and now I'm turning around and running for re-election. And that is, but that's also the idea of, and the virtue of the state house is that you're constantly accountable, right? And that the voters have an opportunity to every 2 years vote on you. And obviously that means it's not the most relaxing of positions, but you don't get into this business to have a predictable 9 to 5 schedule. You get into this because you want to make a difference, and so that's what you do.
All right. Well, you're coming on to election season in November.
Yeah.
You're
124 days as of the recording. I don't know when this comes out, but yeah.
You're campaigning. You're raising money.
Yep.
You're also raising money at I assume, a state and national level to support these state house races.
Yep. So
right?
what we're looking at right now is raising efforts for our House Republican Campaign Committee as its chairman, and that's a massive effort. And you're looking at, this is a tens of millions of dollar race, and then it's again, the amount of money that's going to be poured into Michigan at the presidential level, the U.S. Senate, congressional campaign is going to be massive as well. And fundraising is people you can wring your hands about the place of it in politics, and it's certainly not the most fun or easiest thing, but it's the reality, right? And so you have to raise resources to go and win. And but I will also tell you that in a state house campaign, I will take the candidate who is harder working over the candidate with more money 10 times out of 10.
Really?
And the political graveyard is littered with state house candidates that think they could just buy a seat versus doing that door knocking and effort.
Well, again, I want to go back to that because 12,000 doors.
Yeah. I still have the pair of shoes. I need to get them framed and put them up in my office somewhere. They're pretty worn out. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, when you're not knocking doors, you're running. You're running marathons.
Yes. Yeah. So I ran my 9th marathon last month, the Charlevoix Marathon.
Jeez.
So that was a good race. I run the Boston Marathon. I've run New York and Chicago. So it's sort of my the time in my day when I can carve out time to just sometimes I just can think about nothing on a run. Sometimes it's when you've got an issue that's bothering you, it's hour and a half where you can just pray about something for an hour and a half. Or I say that some of my best speeches, the speech you heard at the Midland County Republican breakfast, wrote that in my head on a run. So it is a good deliberative time for sure.
Before you got into politics, did you ever speak publicly?
So I did at Dow High, did the debate team, and at Georgetown I was on their Model United Nations team, which is about as nerdy as it sounds. But we can't all be college athletes. So no, but it was a good time, and I think it does give you good training. And then again, I think being in the intelligence community was really helpful too, because you go up and you're talking to a general about supporting kinetic operations. You better have your I's dotted and your T's crossed, or they're gonna send you out of that room packing really quickly. So that helped a lot.
The closest I ever got to the Georgetown debate team was striking out with UConn versus Georgetown with my brother and his wife in the stands driving into town because they lived there at the time, and I had a chance to play at Georgetown. I struck out, and I'll never forget. I was so embarrassed. They pinch hit me in the 8th inning. I went 1, 2, 3, struck right out. But
I struck out a lot at the Fraternal Northwest field, so you made it farther than I did. Yeah.
Well, I remember that. I have memories of Fraternal Northwest too. My brother played in the state championship team back in I think '94 or whatever. So we grew up doing baseball. You said baseball, basketball, and football.
And football. Yeah. So I was.
That's awesome.
I again never was the best athlete on the field, but I am so grateful for those experiences, and that's another great thing about Midland and about our community. Being able to go to the community center and shoot hoops with my friends, play baseball out at the Fraternal Northwest fields. And I tell you what, when you have tough days in politics and work, whatever, with life, I still think back to 2-a-days in football practice and our coach saying, "I know this is overwhelming. Just do one more. Just give me one more rep, and then worry about the next rep after that." And that's still things I reflect on today.
In the past year and a half or so that you've been in this role, what's something that comes to mind that you're proud of that got done, or if not, something that you want to get done that maybe you're working on?
Yeah, there's a lot I'd like to get done, and I think again, Republicans are successful in this next election. I think there'll be an opportunity to really deliver on some policies that I care about. But at the same time, you're in there, you're an opportunity. People want solutions, and they want people who can deliver on issues. And I'm really proud of, especially in a very divisive political environment, being able in last year's budget to get $40 million for flood reduction infrastructure here in the city of Midland. I mean, having grown up here, you know that we have legacy flooding challenges, right? The 2020 flood is something we always think about, but Just, growing up and driving down and seeing Emerson, Park flooded. It's very difficult for people to invest in real estate in Midland when they're worried about their basements flooding. It's tough for businesses to want to expand when they're having to deal with the additional costs of getting flood insurance. And this is a great community, and we also have more PhDs per capita in Midland County than anywhere else in the state, right? So we have solutions on the table to reduce our significant flooding challenges, but you have to have that investment, and that's one of the things that the state government can do is they can invest in those types of long scale brick and mortar investments. So, and it was last year's budget. It was a case of just trying to build a bipartisan consensus, working across the island, getting that funding in there, and that's something that we're going to hopefully start to see continue to roll out. And $40 million is a lot. It's one part of the puzzle, but it's a significant step.
Well, I think this is a great example that a lot of people don't realize because we tune out. We live our lives. We're doing other stuff. Got the kids, got school, got work, got the softball games and stuff. And you don't think about what your legislators are working on your behalf and why. And the reason that you make campaign contributions to a candidate is because you want that candidate to win the seat because you want that candidate to represent your district favorably. And so, and this is just the reality of our political landscape and the way it works. It's driven by resources and money and budgets, and you want your district to benefit from that in the ways that it needs to. And we've had like you said, major flood problems. We had obviously the dam failure. We have flooding issues from the way that the lakes are structured anyway, and we need money to repair that with the dam failures and just overall infrastructure. And those decisions are made at the state level, right? In these budgets. So somebody has to be there saying, wait a minute, Midland needs some help. Midland needs some flood recovery money. And I know that the other legislators as well have been helping with that, but that's a major accomplishment.
It is. It's a big
that
deal.
you were able to get done, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Midland needs that infrastructure to be built, and it's just one of 100 examples. There's all kinds of needs and things like that. And when I look at donating, making campaign contributions, or supporting with with door knocking and calling and putting signs up, there are things that you can do that aren't just for money, but you want to find the candidates who you believe are going to represent your district well, and that's a hard. It's for the average person. Bill, you're in politics, so you live this stuff. You live and breathe it. But the average Joe doesn't think about it as much, and I think it's a challenge, a struggle to make or to help raise awareness to the value that these decisions actually bring to the community. How do you do that? How do you let people know without sounding like you're bragging or begging or whatever? How do you make people aware of the challenges and the results that you bring?
Yeah. So obviously, it is hard because flood reduction infrastructure, as impactful as it is for Midland, as big of a deal I think as it is for the community, you're not seeing that on MSNBC, Fox News, CNN. It's not making national headlines, and so much of what our current political scene is dominated about who said what to whom on the cable news networks versus what's actually going on here. So it's significantly a challenge, and you spelled that out well. I think that's, again, for the individual state representative, the task is to try and communicate that in as many ways as possible. We talked about the old school ways of, door knocking doesn't get more door knocking than old school than door knocking. And then we hold office hours twice a month where people can just come and talk. But then it also is taking advantage of different forms of media and communication. So beyond just your press releases to go out in the Midland Daily News, come on the Talk Midland podcast, do that Facebook Live, post a reel to Instagram talking about what you're doing, because it's hard to break through, and you don't blame folks for tuning out our politics these days, right? So it's just like, how do you communicate the new listing? You have to find ways to meet people where they're at, and hope folks listen.
Well, you're meeting me where I am because I'm on Facebook seeing you all the time.
Yeah, that's good.
And, I just got to know you, and I think you're great, but I felt like I was getting to know you through your efforts long before I met you, and long before you won your election.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, a year and a half before. It seemed like you were really starting early.
Yeah.
And I think I admire that about you. I
Thank
admire that you put it out there and that you're showing people what you're doing in a way that's humble.
Yeah.
But you're showing the grassroots nature of your campaign. Now, there's Democrats and there's Republicans listening, whatever.
Yep.
But just, you have to admire somebody who works hard to earn the vote for their constituents, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. And that's, again, something that's important to me is you have to earn it every single day. You have to show that, and those are the values I think that Midland installs in you. And I think that's something that you learn playing sports. You learn growing up in a community and in a family that teaches you those are the important things, and the trick is to always have that be your North Star and your guiding light.
All right. Other than our great ice cream shops, which you tend to frequent,
I do love our ice cream. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is where we bond the most because I eat ice cream every day.
There you go. Yeah.
What do you love about Midland, and where do you see Midland going in the future? Where do you want to take us?
Yeah. So I think Midland's strengths are so many. From how many towns of 40,000 people do you know that have a minor league baseball team, and the LPGA tournament that we just saw, an outstanding public school system, a center for the arts, all those types of things. Midland has such a great community. But what I love about Midland is the fact you go to the grocery store and somebody's trying to reach the item on the top shelf. Somebody's reaching over to help them out, and I run down the rail trail and I don't know everybody, but they wave and they smile and say hello. When I was out in DC, I remember for the first time, went for my first run out in Washington, and I did the Midland wave, where you don't really know the person but you wave, and the person looked at me like I had 6 heads, and that's the strength of community and vibrancy that makes Midland so strong. Where I want Midland to grow is I want this. I won't be shy about it. I want Midland to be, the best place in the entire state to start your family, start your business, and live your life. And I want Midland to grow and be an opportunity area, an opportunity state. I want this to be where our high school graduating classes are deciding to stay and move back after graduation. I want this to be where the new innovative companies, the disruptor companies are choosing Midland to be the place where they live, and that's going to bring with it the investments, the tax base, the types of things we need to continue to grow and thrive as a community. And I'm not interested in being part of a managed decline for Midland. Midland's trajectory is upward and strong and positive. I want Midland to be continuing to be a beacon of thriving energy in the Great Lakes Bay region in our state.
If someone wants to support your campaign and get involved, what's the best way to do that?
I would go to BillGScheutte.com, and there's a information button. They can shoot us an email. They can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, shoot us a message, and they can come to any of our numerous campaign events. We are in I know this will go out after the 4th of July. We've got everything from the Beaverton 4th of July parade tomorrow to we'll be knocking doors as a team all the way through November. So lots of different opportunities in areas to get involved. State House Rep Bill G. Scheutte, thanks for being on the Talk Midland podcast. Logan, thanks for having me.